Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Bastions and Basilisks. I'm Kalvin,
I'm Brandon.
and I almost said Gaming with Cal again. This episode, we're going to talk about the Paladin. I'm going to say it like that because of how you say Artificer.
Artificer.
Yeah, the Artificer. I'm just going to pronounce it Paladin the whole
I
time.
don't know, the Paladin sounds way better.
The Paj Madalin. Okay. Paladin is, Holy Knights of Ni. I'm just going to make a whole bunch of Monty Python references during this video.
And I will understand literally none of them.
I know she will. And Paladins get a D10 for hit points. So they start off with 10 plus their Constitution modifier. They are proficient in all armor and shields, and simple weapons and martial weapons. They get no tool proficiencies. They are proficient in wisdom and charisma saving throws. They can choose 2 from athletics, insight, intimidation, medicine, persuasion, and religion. Starting equipment is relevant. Divine sense. The presence of strong evil registers on your senses like a noxious odor, and powerful good rings like heavenly music in your ears. As an action, you can open your awareness to detect such forces. Until the end of your next turn, you know the location of any celestial, fiend, or undead within 60 feet of you that is not behind total cover. You know the type, celestial, fiend, or undead, of any being whose presence you sense, but not its identity. The vampire Count Strahd von Zarevich, for instance. Within the same radius, you also detect the presence of any place or object that has been consecrated or desecrated, as with the Hallow spell. Or Hallow? I think it's Hallow.
Hallow, I believe.
Yeah. You can use this feature a number of times equal to 1 plus your charisma modifier. When you finish a long rest, you regain all expended uses. That's, it's thematic. It's... I'm sure it has its uses, but...
So...
Much like Blood Hunters, let me know a thing about a thing. It's, it's specific, or Rangers, it's...
So I have a question. Does this technically mean if you have a negative charisma modifier, that one, say you have a -2 in your charisma, would that be a -1 amount of times? Because it doesn't say,
No, I know. It doesn't specify. That's probably a...
I think that's like an accidental thing that they did.
I highly doubt you would be a bard. A paladin with
a low charisma.
With an 8 charisma.
Yeah, I was just wondering that because, I was very astonished because it says 1 plus your charisma, not with at least a minimum of 1.
Yeah, they normally do, so it might be just an oversight.
Yeah. Because I've never noticed that it said that directly, because I always imagined it was a minimum of 1, so it would be +1 of your charisma.
I would rule it as a minimum of 1, because every other ability that you get 1 plus something is always a minimum of 1. So
yeah,
I assume it's just an oversight.
Yeah, they probably were working on a lot of things at the same time.
All right, Lay on Hands, probably one of the best class abilities.
Fucking really.
So good. Your Blessed Touch can heal wounds. You have a pool of healing power that replenishes when you take a long rest. With that pool, you can restore a total number of hit points equal to your Paladin level times 5. As an action, you can touch a creature and draw power from the pool to restore a number of hit points to that creature up to the maximum amount remaining in your pool. Alternatively, you can spend 5 hit points from your pool of healing to cure the target of 1 disease or neutralize 1 poison inflicting it. Which means, and no roll for that. So, if they're, mummy rot, boom, gone. Super poison, whatever, no big deal. You can cure multiple diseases and neutralize multiple poisons with a single use of Lay on Hands, expending hit points separately for each one.
This can also cure lycanthropy, right?
Because that's a disease, yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
This feature has no effect on undead and constructs. So you can't use it to heal.
Yeah, heal things that don't have the ability to actually be healed.
Well, they specify now, because in older editions you could cast Cure Wounds on an undead and damage it.
I see. I'm running that in my campaign I started because
they specify that you can't do that. That's why they specify that, because that was a way for especially a life cleric who's like, ha, fuck you.
I'm doing it in my game.
Plus wisdom
Plus
modifier
whatever.
plus spell level plus 2 or whatever. Like,
Well, the reason why I have it is because one of my PCs is actually a undead character. So I was like, well, if you want to be immune to necrotic damage, you'd have to take vulnerability to radiant. That'd be the only real trade-off. And he was like, no, I'm fine with that. I was like, you do not like understand that anything really healing will hurt you. And he goes, that's fine. So the first combat encounter they get, one of our ranger did healing word on him, and he was already really low on health points. And so I was like, all right, you heal this amount of HP. And then I got wide-eyed. I was like, actually, you don't. You are now unconscious. And he just goes, I fucking hate you for doing this now. And I was like, it's your fault for getting into combat. I wasn't expecting this.
you're the one who agreed to it.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, like the hollow one, or there are some things that you can add that like they specify that you aren't. Like, I think technically, like, well, that means that it wouldn't work on like the mechanomes or whatever that are in the next book, or that they just put out some information about that might be in another book coming up, or because if they're constructs, then it doesn't work on them.
I'm really interested in seeing that because this is the first I've ever heard of them.
Yeah, it's like mechanical gnomes or some shit, and it's just bullshit because they didn't do that for Warforged, and the Warforged are mechanical. Like, why aren't they constructs then?
Yeah, it's because they have
probably
magical...
won't keep it that way because that means that they can't be healed. Anyway, fighting style. Like every class that gets a fighting style, you can choose between... I'm not going to go into it too much because all of these are the same as fighters. You can defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, or protection. Once again, it all depends on what kind of character you're building. Spellcasting. At second level, they've learned to draw on divine magic through meditation and prayer to cast spells as a cleric does. They're considered half casters because they don't get nearly as many spells, and they only get up to 5th level spells, by 17th level. So, probably the bread and butter of Divine Smite. Starting at second level, you can hit a creature with a melee weapon. When you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack, you can expend 1 spell slot to deal radiant damage to the target. In addition to the weapon's damage, the extra damage is 2d8 for a first level spell plus 1d8 per spell level higher than first to a maximum of 5d8. The damage increases by 1d8 if the target is an undead or a fiend.
That is just... And the beautiful thing is that you can add this after the attack, correct?
Yeah, it says when you hit, not when you attack.
Yeah, so the actual hit.
You'll know that you hit because it'll be like, all right, that's a hit, and you're like, all right, smite.
Yeah, like you don't have to say, all right, I rolled a smite or rolled a hit and then add smite. It's like,
yeah, you're like, all right, I'm gonna use a smite, and then you miss, and you're like, it's
Yeah, you're pissed off that you just wasted whatever.
Monks get the stunning blow, and it's on a hit. They can same concept. So remind people of that when they bitch about monks doing stunning blow. Be like, yeah, well, at least they're not can't go, all right, I'm going to expend a spell slot when I know that I've hit and fucking nuke. Because that's especially like, oh, if I get it, you get a crit, and you're like, cool, I'm going to smite him. And so all of the damage is doubled.
Yeah.
Divine Health. By third level, the divine magic flowing through you makes you immune to disease.
So what happens if you decide to play as a... Well, no, I feel like you would, if you decided to Zolt and the Blood Hunter of Order of the Lycanthrope, would that accidentally cure you? And you wouldn't be able to go back? Or would you be able to... I figured you talked to your DM about this.
Well, also, Jasalt isn't...
it's not canon, or at least it's not like a normal thing.
It's not normal, so it's irrelevant.
Yeah, well, it's because, there is a small community of us who fucking play it. But
I understand. You're
the
entirety of that small community. Don't make it sound like there's a lot of them. No.
The 3 of me. No.
3 of you. There's so many.
I figured that the DM would be like, nah, it's cool, because, first of all, that's a literal class that you're getting rid of, more or less. Unless you decide to go along with that and then change over. But you get your order.
I would say 3. It depends on which oath, because I probably wouldn't screw over my player. Like I wouldn't. If we're going, if we're going, especially because I don't do just stall anyway. But if you decided, you're 3 levels and you went Lycan, and then you're like maybe for in-game reasons you decided to go into Paladin and you get to 3rd level.
Yeah, multi-class.
Yeah, and I'll be like, all right, I'm not gonna fuck you over. It's something that, because that's you willingly took on that disease.
Yeah.
So it's, I would say it's one of those things that like it's the
Unless you made it like a curse instead, which it says immune to disease on this one. So if you decided to make it a curse of lycanthropy, it would be different.
True.
You could just make it that way also.
That's true, but I mean, according to Bloodhunter, I think it is considered a disease, though.
Yeah.
If
it's because you can get cured of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I will always play on the side of not fucking over my players. So I wouldn't screw my players over with. If they're like, oh shit, that means that I lose. Doesn't I'm like, no, you're good.
Yeah. You just happen to be immune to other diseases.
Because part of especially because part of being a paladin is dogs in the background, barking it out.
Yeah.
Woof woof woofing. This is what you get for mentioning the Path of the Lycan. No.
They sense the canine.
You guys good now? No? Yes? No. Yeah, I would say it's all based on intent of the character. Like, that would be kind of nifty if you decided to take, maybe you start at 3rd level or something and you consider it a curse, and so you just take 3 levels of Paladin to try to cure it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty
that would
interesting.
be kind of cool. Or, although I wouldn't, I don't know, it's one of those things that I would work with the player. Like, if you don't want to be that kind of blood hunter anymore, then, switch. Although why you wouldn't want to be Order of the Lycan blood hunter anymore doesn't make sense to me. But
yeah,
for reasons, whatever.
Yeah, you'd have to switch over or something like that.
Or even maybe, by being immune to the disease, now you have control over it or something. It could be a million different things. Anyway, Sacred Oath. When you reach 3rd level, you swear the oath that binds you as a paladin forever. Up to this time, you have been in a preparatory stage committed to the path, but not yet sworn to it. Now you choose the Oath of Devotion. It's the oaths from this book. You get oath spells from it. Channel Divinity. Your oath allows you to channel divinity energy to field magical effects. Each channel divinity option provided by your oath explains how to use it. You get it back when you finish a short or long rest. I think most of them get they get different things depending, and they're pretty nifty. Ability score improvement at 4, 8, 12, 16, and 19, like every other class, or most other classes. 5th level, you get an extra attack, so you can attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. Aura of Protection. Starting at 6th level, whenever you or a friendly creature within 10 feet of you must make a saving throw, the creature gains a bonus to the saving throw equal to your Charisma modifier with a minimum bonus of +1. You must be conscious to grant this bonus. At 18th level, the range of this aura increases to 30 feet. That is another one that's just... Because that means that effectively your Charisma saving throw is doubled.
Mm-hmm.
And then that means that you have a ridiculously high charisma or saving throws.
And it says that you can also include yourself, which a lot of people tend to overlook. So you're able to really double down on this.
Or a friendly creature, yeah, exactly. Which is which you could still fail. And remember, nat 1s on saving throws doesn't matter. The only thing you can nat 1 on and it have an effect are attack rolls.
Yep.
But I mean, if you roll a nat 1, especially with the paladin, if you're like, oh, I rolled a nat 1, and
you still pass the DC, and you're good.
That's what's up.
Yeah, if you have a high enough check where you're able to do that on a nat 1, and it's just like, I can only imagine how high this charisma score is, but it's just, you're just looking at a dragon. The dragon just like tries to like do some sort of like fear thing on you, and you have to make a save. This is before the aura of courage, and you're just like, nah, I rolled in that one, but I'm still good. Like I'm staring at this dragon.
Well, if you think about it, okay, mathematically, it's your. I'm trying to remember what the highest you can get. So it's your stat plus proficiency. So that's 11 plus 8. So 19 is the highest that your DCs, as far as being a player, can go. A lot of things have like 17s at higher levels. So if somebody targets a level 20 paladin with a charisma based saving throw, even if they roll a 1, they're still getting a 17 on their. So they're like, it's one of those things that like, I don't fail it. Like
Yeah.
um, that's assuming that you bump up your charisma to 20, mind you. But why would you not? Especially like for that bonus alone. Plus, it has effects on other things that you do.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I think that's one of the only things that actually utilizes, besides your spells, uses your charisma modifier. Like your smite isn't affected by it. Your divine sense isn't. Oh well, it's affected by how many times you can use it. Your lay on hands is not affected by it. So, all right. Aura of Courage. Starting at 10th level, you and friendly creatures within 10 feet of you can't be frightened while you are conscious. At 18th level, the range of this aura increases to 30 feet. Not the most powerful thing, but you're going up against a dragon. A lot of older dragons have fear effects, so they're like, "Brah," you're like, "Meh."
If I'm correct, some creatures have a fear radius to where it's like, guess what? If you're within X
Yeah.
amount of feet of it, you have to pass a save. So
Yeah,
if
exactly.
you,
So as long as you're within 10 feet, which that's
that's at least 4 people. Enough because diagonal is 10 feet also.
Yeah.
So if you're
Yeah.
surrounded by people, they're
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah. That's effectively a 10-foot square. No.
Yeah.
That's a 20-foot square because it's 10 feet from you, so it's 5'10". Yeah, it's a 20.
5, 10, 5.
It's a 20. Yeah, it's a 20-foot square essentially.
Yeah.
Which is a lot. Like.
If you can stack a good amount of people, and if I'm correct, small creatures, so like gnomes and halflings can also get in between people, or is that just for getting past them wise?
No, halflings can move through people.
Yeah, I never quite understood
even if
it.
They're enemies, I think. As long as they're one size bigger. I don't think there's anything officially that allows you to be in the same square. I know that I think races have things where they can, like monster races have things where they can be in the same square. But no, it's like a lot of things. It's paladins in general are kind of situational for a lot of what they do, but Aura Courage is very situational. But it's one of those things that it's not a negative. Like
yeah, it's not like
it's a thing, especially considering what the frightened condition does.
It's not like a give me like a couple classes give. Like this actually has even though it's situational, it's still pretty good.
It is a little bit of a give me, but it's a useful give me, especially because it helps the party. So it's not like barbarians just my innate I have a 24 on my check without rolling or stuff like that. It still helps the party. Improved Divine Smite. By 11th level, you are so suffused with righteous might that all of your melee weapon strikes carry divine power with them. Whenever you hit a creature with a melee weapon, the creature takes an extra 1d8 radiant damage. If you also use your Divine Smite with an attack, you add this damage to your extra damage of your Divine Smite.
Where did you read that one? Where'd you read that last part? I didn't even read that.
Yeah, that's what it says at the end of it. It says at the end of Improved Divine Smite.
For mine, it's by the 11th level, you're suffused with the righteous might that all melee weapons strikes carry divine power with them. Whenever you hit a creature with a melee weapon, the creature takes an extra 1d8 radiant damage. It doesn't have the on top of it smite, which I assume.
Mine's the errated version.
Oh, yeah, mine's just the regular PHP.
PDFs will
work. This is like the second time that's actually happened where like your version has something on top of it which is
Well,
interesting.
some of us like having stuff on top of it. Ayo. Um, yeah. That's a good ability. Clerics get that. Most clerics get something similar by 8th level, which for like war domain clerics is really nasty because they can swing up to 3 times in a round. So being able to hit for an extra little bump of damage never hurts. Cleansing Touch. Beginning at 14th level, you can use your action to end one spell on yourself or one willing creature that you touch. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your charisma modifier, a minimum of once. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. It is not a roll either. You just end it.
That's really nice.
So if somebody has anything, that's once again, this is one of those things that's like, you're like, okay, that's kind of cool, but like, somebody's being mind controlled. You're like, boop.
You just end it.
You just boop. I end it. Or
that's actually
if
really.
you're being mind controlled, theoretically, you'd be like, boop. Or you're cursed, or something.
No, it's a pretty decent ability. It's I couldn't come up with anything off the top of my head that could be better or dealing around paladins, but if you gave me like an hour, I'm sure I could come up with a better ability. But it's pretty decent for what it is.
Yeah, it's once again, they're very team oriented. It seems like I haven't played one in 5th edition, and I know that especially going into like their sacred oaths, like one of the aura of devotion. You and friendly creatures within 10 feet of you can't be charmed while you're conscious. Like Oath of the Ancients, Aura of Warding. Ancient magic lasts so heavily upon you that it forms an eldritch ward. You and friendly creatures within 10 feet of you have resistance to damage from spells. Like, they're really good. There's like, are they as good at dealing damage? Like they're burst damage dealers. So if they get a crit, they can put out a lot of damage if they need to, with some smitey smites.
I cast Smite.
But they have a lot of abilities that are helpful to the group. Like they are it's very much like the Diablo 2 paladins. Like, they're just got auras and stacks, or original shamans from World of Warcraft. Where you're like, all right, I got these different totems. It'd be nice if you could pick and choose. I know that your oaths allow you to kind of get another aura. It would be nice if you got a little bit more options for auras from a base class, or if you could kind of change them out depending. That would be kind of cool. But you get 2. 3 when you pick your subclass. So you get 3 auras, which is not bad. So based on the one that you get at level 7, like if you're the Path of the Ancients or Oath of the Ancients, you get a fireball dropped on your group, and you're all next to each other. Everybody adds your charisma bonus to their saving throw, so you're more likely to succeed on it. And even if you fail, you're still taking half damage because you have resistance, and it's not specific to a damage type. It is just period. So like paladins are good in formation, in a group, in a formation, in combat. They would be really good. Like they would be a good thing to pair up with like a wizard, because a wizard doesn't have the hit points.
Yeah, and it's definitely a good class, and like even if you're running low on
Constitution saving.
All saves, if I'm correct.
Yeah, which is concentration.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Wizard's like currently trying to what is it? It's not paralyzed. Is it freaking hold person on or hold monster or something?
Any class that if you're channeling you're focusing on channeling on a spell. Like that's
That'd be
one of
pretty
those things. Like you have a paladin in your group, you know. I think there's another one. I think that gives you because that one gives you resistance to damage from spells. Oh, apparently you don't get an aura. Apparently, Oath of Vengeance doesn't get an aura. I don't want to look in the other ones, but I think there might be one that gives people in your aura advantage on saving throws against magic or something like.
You know what I just thought? Warcaster. The one where you can hold up to 2 concentration spells at one time, but the DC keeps like going up. Wouldn't that help?
That is not Warcaster. Warcaster allows you to. You have advantage on Constitution saving throws.
What's the one that you're able to do?
It's from Teldori. You're thinking one of the feats from Teldori.
Okay.
That allows you to focus on 2, but you have to roll Constitution or a con save every turn. But once again, that's a great.
You'd have the ability.
Yeah, you have. Especially if you're doing if you're summoner, so you summon a couple things, and so you have like a druid or maybe a cleric, a wizard, just you're in a group of summoning people who summon, and all you take that, and you're like, all right, you have a whole plethora of allies on the field now.
Dude, I just keep imagining because I have a necromancer in my party who him and I are going through and trying to make more necromancy spells because 5th edition base doesn't have a lot of necromancy spells dealing with raising or anything. And
I'm aware at how fucked over necromancers are in 5th edition.
Necromancer is just kind of fucked up.
As a necromancer myself, I'm like this. To be fair, they were really powerful in 3rd edition, so it makes sense to why they nerfed them a bit. But I feel like they went a bit too hard. I mean, they do get a decent amount because they have Create Undead, Animate Dead, Dance Macabre.
I was going more for he has the ability to release and I didn't realize that some of these abilities are able to be done until later. Like if say he summons a white or something like that. Like I forgot what it was, but there's an undead creature. Its passive ability is that it can summon further undead.
They can have up to 12 zombies under their control.
And I was like, yo, that's really impressive. Like, this is kind of scary. But him and I have been trying to come up with some other stuff. I think he just recently ended up changing, because we're still within the preliminary part of the campaign. I'm allowing changes if you decide, oh, hey, I want to be this class instead. We're able to do that. So I think he changed it over to where he's doing another class instead of the warlock, because he was doing warlock and wizard at first, if I'm correct, and now he's wizard blood hunter, and so he's trying to go with the necromancy blood hunter stuff to where they're able to manipulate and kind of delve into that deeper. And he was asking me am I able to make a necromancy spell where basically he makes a body explode? And I was like, yeah. It's like, what would you call it? He's like, blood bomb. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And it basically, and he wanted it to do a D8 or a D10, but there's it damages everything within 5 or 10 feet for that damage. And I was like, well, it'd either be bludgeoning or piercing. Which one would you want? And he said bludgeoning because it's more of the force makes you kind of go away.
You know what? I recommend anybody watching this too buy the Hidden Oddities book. Hold on, I'll get the specific name.
I'm very interested in this.
We're gonna go over.
I small the back.
Thanks. Gotta show off my
You're
good
welcome.
stuff. We're gonna go over this at some point. It's laundry day, okay? I'm not wearing my comfy clothes.
No, you're good, dude. My shirt's basically a crop top if I stood up.
So yeah, Hidden Oddities, a witch's primer. We're gonna go over the witch at some point.
Oh no, yeah, I'm excited for that. I haven't seen anything on it.
But let's see. They have Bone Spear essentially from old school Diablo. Bone Spear, As you cast a spell and touch a corpse of a medium or large creature, a spear made from its bones shoots out towards a target creature within 60 feet. Make a ranged spell attack. On a hit, the target takes 3d12 piercing damage, and the target is thrown 10 feet back. If the thrown creature hits a solid surface, the creature is restrained until the end of their next turn. If the thrown creature hits another creature, that creature also takes the piercing damage, and both creatures are restrained until the end of their next turn.
Send me a picture of that. I'm going to send that to him. That's awesome.
There's another
Is that a
one.
spell?
Yeah. It's Warlock, Witch, Wizard.
He's a wizard. So, yeah, Necromancer would work for that. I'm very interested in that.
There's another one. Corpse Trap.
We should probably go over this in the wizard section for things, not the paladin.
Yeah. But buy this book. You can buy it as a PDF. It's worth it. Because that's not it. There's another one where like you essentially target the person's skeleton, and the skeleton is trying to escape their body, and if you kill them with the spell, you permanently control their skeleton, much like Finger of Death like kills them and reanimates them as a zombie. Yeah.
Imagine like you're just like your brain and everything is like, why is my skeleton why is it acting against me? And then it just starts peeling its way out of your hands first.
Yeah,
and you're like,
exactly. So anyway,
fucking terrifying.
We're gonna go over the witch at some point. It's very exciting.
That's awesome.
But yeah, paladins are a good class. They are a solid class. They're a little passive. I think in like playing in a solo game. Like playing in Diablo, playing a paladin is fun because it's I'm playing by myself but playing in like a role playing game, it's a little less fun for me just because they don't get as many features. I know it's all about what you make of it, and I think I'm just in a mentality where I want a lot of something. So I'm that's why I play a lot of wizards or artificers because they got a lot that they can do. Crafting or creating spells or creating magic items or whatever. But paladins are a good class. Like I think they're not as good, in the long haul as far as compared to like fighters, or barbarians, or even like in blood hunters if they're. Because what they get back on short rests. Anybody who gets something back on a short rest is already a bit better than a paladin because their cure or their lay on hands is limited per long rest. So whereas like a fighter, if they can cure themselves every once per short rest. Maybe that's why I like the Purple Dragon Knight is because it almost feels like it has paladin. Like it's like a paladin subclass almost. It's it's like Final Fantasy XI where it's warriors their main class, their main job, and then paladin is their sub job. But like there's in a game where there's going to be undead or fiends, there are going to be few classes better having at least one in your party. If you have a whole group of paladins going into hell, then that is going to be a whole lot of fun. Especially if you all take different oaths. Especially because I think there's one of the oaths, the Oath of Glory. Like, that one increases everybody within anybody within 10 feet of you is, their speed is increased by 10 feet or something like that. Like, which isn't a whole lot until you're a tabaxi. And you're like, woo, bye. But they're I like we've said before, I try to say that they're, things I dislike. They're a little bland and very narrow focused as far as classes go. You don't have to play them as such, and I had a friend who was playing a paladin and he was great. But they're not, and people bitch online about this, but they're no longer restricted to lawful good alignment, which is the best thing ever, because alignment is bullshit anyway.
They can be evil. They can
Right.
be chaotic. They can be neutral.
So in older editions, you had to be lawful good, um, which just limits your character. Like much like monks couldn't be chaotic, barbarians couldn't be lawful. Like it's like okay, because barbarians don't follow the law. They follow the law
Barbarians,
of their tribe, don't they? And so it's a whole thing. Um,
they follow the law of nature, if anything.
yeah, but they are they're a middle of the road class. Unless I mean they're better than a ranger still. Unless you're in a game where there's like that would be one of those things that if somebody's playing a paladin in your game or paladin, um, throw some undead in there. Do have some kind of undead related subplot. Like you should always kind of try to work around your group in general, as far as building the campaign to kind of incorporate everybody's abilities so everybody's feeling relevant. But it's more so for a paladin because their abilities, like a ranger, you're gonna throw their favorite enemy at them, on occasion. You're like, oh, so they can shine. Because I mean, it's unfair to have a game where you fight just, you're fighting just dragons the whole time, and you have a paladin. Paladin is like cool.
When do I get to actually do something?
Like I mean, they can swing twice. They're good frontline tanks. They can heal. Like they're very utilitarian or utility. I mean, they're immune to the frightened condition. They're immune to diseases. They can cure people of diseases and poison. They can heal people. They can remove spells. They give their bonus to they get a lot of abilities that help everybody and themselves. So that's why I don't think they're a bad class, is because they got a lot of good abilities.
They have the ability to do well in campaigns
and
that
their
also
smite is
include
not
that.
specific to their enemies, like undead, or it's just it does more if they're undead or fiends. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things that if situationally, no, every day they're kind of middle of the road, but very utility heavy. And very strong middle of the road. Like they're not bad. I mean, they're not dealing the damage. They're not as good at tanking as a barbarian. They're not or blood hunter, or as good at dealing damage as blood hunter or monks or rogues or fighters, or burst damage. Like rogues can So it's, but they're very strong. They are solid pillar in the middle of the list, essentially. Like
If you don't know what to create, a paladin never hurts.
there is no negative, especially if the person playing them isn't playing them like a lawful stupid. That's the big issue of older editions. But if
I uphold the law of Bahamut to the T.
that's
Okay, what does that mean? Fuck if I know. I don't know these laws. I'm just acting like I do.
all right, that's fine. It's I wouldn't even say if you don't know what to play a paladin. Figure out what you want to play. That's kind of a general rule for me anyway. I would say if you don't know what you want to play a fighter, because they're very straightforward, and there's a lot of nuance that you have to remember with a paladin. So they're a little bit more complicated as far as classes go, because you're like, oh, how close are you? Like you have to remember you have 3 auras that you have to remember, plus you have your lay on hands, plus if you get targeted by something that has a disease, you have to remember that you're immune to disease, or frightened, or smiting. So there's a lot to juggle. So they're a little bit more complicated of a class to play, but they are a solid class. I just don't think they're as good, like I said, as damage or as spells or healing as like a cleric. So they don't have as many. I think clerics have the most subclasses anyway. But
honestly, I kind of see the paladin as like a mishmash of a couple different.
I mean, it's
classes.
Effectively they're a fighter cleric hybrid.
Yeah, that's
that's
they
what
have the
they've
ability
always
to
been.
hit a good bit. They have the ability to do damage and they have the ability to heal.
Like rangers are fighter druid hybrids, effectively.
Yeah.
But No, paladins are. I just think I'm not where I am right now. I'm just not in the mood to play a paladin.
No, that's understandable.
But in no way will I complain if somebody else plays a paladin, because they are, like I said, they are a strong class in their middle of the road. Where they are, they're really good at what they do. It's just unless it comes up a lot, then they're kind of meh. So it's everyday scenario, they're like a 5 or a 6. You know, if it's a campaign where there's a lot of undead or where, you know, fiends or whatever, they're probably a 7 or an 8. I mean, I think, you know, they could go higher if you build your character more. But just generically in a campaign with undead, they're better. They bump up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, you know, that could be said that a ranger if you're in an undead game. Anyway, we'll talk about rangers when we talk about rangers, but
yeah, which is next.
Haha, you have to talk about rangers.
Yeah, honestly, the entire video should be just go to Unearthed Arcana, and that should be it.
It's true. Well, we'll probably just go to Unearthed Arcana.
I don't have the Unearthed Arcana version. I just have the natural.
You look it up. You can look it up.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you had.
No. Anyway, so I like I said, I like paladins. I love having paladins in a group with me. They're just I don't want to play a paladin. So they are a really good class. Just not currently.
Is it the this 8-page PDF
Yep.
that I just found? Jesus Christ.
All right, I have it on my phone then.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was in Xanathar's Guide of Everything. I don't know why. That's why I thought it was.
No.
It's probably because there's a couple Ranger subclasses there.
Yeah. Well, that's the one that has one. Actually, they add anyway. But yeah, that's paladins or paladins, as I was supposed to call it this whole time.
Paladin.
Paladin. Oh my god, that'd be funny. If your character.
Paladin. I didn't even think about that.
Oh geez, I was thinking Paladin like Paladin like from like Sordine or like, you know, something from like what is it, New Northeast. Oh, it's called the Middle East, but that's not what it's called. Like,
I know what you're talking about.
Like-
That's what I was thinking
like-
at first also. But I thought of
like
Paladin.
that area, like that region. You know, it sounds like somebody from, you know, Iraq or like not current. Well, maybe current. I don't know. I'm not familiar with names, a lot of names outside of Jim Bob.
And Jim Bob. I was gonna say Jim Stew, but I was like sounds
Sounds delicious.
Yeah.
I'm not a
That
cannibal. You're a cannibal. Anyway, good
only
old
cannibalism
Jim
if it's
Stew.
non-consensual.
It's true. Anyway, I'm Kalvin.
I'm Brandon.
Bye.
This deviated real fucking quick.
Yep.
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. And now you get to listen to the outro song. And that's the outro song. Yeah.